Miss Bitcoin here, and I'm with Tone Bass. How are you, Tone?
Excellent. Always great to be back in El Salvador. Amazing country.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here as well. So, Tone, when did you get into Bitcoin, and what was it that drew you in?
Sure. So I first heard about Bitcoin around early 2011 by watching Max Kaiser on RT. I never had any friends. No one told me about it. I only heard about it from Max Kaiser back in 2011. Even Google did in 2011, 2012. It was interesting, but not interesting enough to get any. What triggered was in 2013, in April, the Cyprus banking confiscation, when the government of the Cyprus, through the European Union, confiscated 50% of everyone's wealth in their savings accounts in Cyprus. So if you had 200,000 euros in the bank that you legally earned from your job, the government took 50,000 euro. They took 50% of all your wealth above 100,000 euros. And that event triggered me into looking for the first unconfiscatable asset in human history. And that's how the word unconfiscatable was born. That was my interest in Bitcoin. I got in a little bit later than that. And as of 2014, I became a public speaker, doing interviews on YouTube, eventually starting my own YouTube channel, and built an event called Unconfiscatable to educate people about Bitcoin's most important property, that when you own Bitcoin and you keep your mouth shut, unlike some of us, don't tell anybody about it, you can store it in your head, and no one will ever take that away from you.
Amazing story. Tell me a bit about your background. You have spent much of your professional life as a trader?
Sort of. I started trading right after, around the time of me graduating from graduate school. My graduate degree was in financial engineering, which is a combination of mathematics, finance, and programming. And I started trading, but I didn't have a lot of money. But whatever money I was able to save by being a college teaching assistant, I started trading as my first profession. Unfortunately, I got too leveraged shorting the real estate market in 2006. And I ran out of money, and I got my first job at Bear Stearns in 2007 that a year later went bankrupt because of the real estate crash. So I was too early to one of the greatest trades in our lifetime, shorting the real estate market. I was 1 year too early. So I was working on Wall Street for 10 years on a quant team, building, helping to build risk models for traders. But I always wanted to quit and become a trader on my own, which is what I did around 2015. I quit my Wall Street job to be a trader, but I was already becoming popular as a public speaker and a YouTube personality. And I really started to enjoy the travel. I started enjoying the public speaking. And it was very difficult to be a consistent trader when in a lifestyle like you and I have. So after trading for a couple of years, I decided to put that on hold and focus on educating people about Bitcoin, trading, economics, finance. And I mostly do that. And I do some trading whenever I get a chance, but I still do the podcast, analyzing the markets to just keep myself fresh on what's happening.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've seen your podcast, so for, of course, live. How is Bitcoin different than any other investment you have ever analyzed?
Ooh, Bitcoin is just completely unique. It's a brand new asset, and brand new assets with utility that has never existed before only come around once in a generation. In our generation, that asset is Bitcoin. In the prior generation, that asset was the internet itself. Unlike Bitcoin, you never had the opportunity to invest in the internet itself. You could only pick and choose companies on top of the internet to profit from the internet. You could not profit from the internet directly unless you are running services like an ISP, internet service provider. You pay your cell phone company every month to have access to the internet. You pay for your router at home. So that's how they're profiting directly from the internet. Otherwise, as an investment, you have to choose companies. Google, Amazon, these are all Netflix. These are companies that exist because of the internet. So the internet was the prior generations one shot, but you still have to pick and choose companies. With Bitcoin, Bitcoin itself is like the internet. Picking and choosing winners and losers, those are all companies on top of Bitcoin, or shitcoins if you want to go in that realm, which I try to stay away from. Another analogy to Bitcoin is something like oil. 150 years ago, you bought land in Texas. You're familiar with the state of Texas. In 1865, 1870, you bought land in Texas. You start digging for a water well. You hit this black goo called oil. Your land is ruined. 20 years later, you could be the richest person in America. So suddenly this asset that was a waste and worth zero became the most valuable asset in the world, which is oil. And Bitcoin is the same way. When it first came out, it was free and worthless.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, a few years later, it became one of the most valuable assets in the world. So that's another analogy you can make. And no, someone is not going to create a better Bitcoin tomorrow, just like they couldn't have done it for 10 years. This was a once-in-a-lifetime chance.
Definitely.
What are my prospects for Bitcoin for the rest of the decade? I remain pretty bullish on Bitcoin even right now. As this interview is going on, Bitcoin is sitting at about $95,000, down approximately 30,000 from 125,000 peak about a month and a half ago. I know it's weird. Bitcoin is down $30,000 and we're still at this nice price of 95K. I still think the bull market top is ahead of us over the next year or two. And after that, we may hit a bear market. And I think there will be one more nice bull run as well. So I am very bullish on Bitcoin with adoption, with its use as money, with its potential use as a global reserve asset. I see more countries buying Bitcoin. I see more companies buying Bitcoin. And I see regulation becoming easier for people to buy and hold Bitcoin. So I'm very, very bullish. After that, we will have to reevaluate because there are some concerns. I think as time goes on, Bitcoin is becoming a little bit more centralized from the mining perspective, from the coding perspective, definitely from the accumulation of Bitcoin perspective. I hate the fact that most Bitcoin is being held by custodial institutions, and the US government can confiscate 1/3 of all the Bitcoin in the world if they want to, if the US government is collapsing. So there are lots of things to be concerned about, but they're coming way down the road. But for the next 4 to 6 years, I remain very, very bullish, and I think the best times are still ahead.
Thank you so much, Tom, for this interview.
Thank you.